I think for me to come into midwifery came a long way. Before I even realized it. When I was born, I came out quite blue with some complications, and my mom gave birth to 7 children, and I was the only one that needed real medical intervention. And I was in an incubator for 2 weeks, and I think it wasn't for the people caring for me in that time, and midwives and professionals around me, I would not have made it. But I was definitely meant to be here, and also I think being part of a big family where birth was really seen as quite a natural, normal life event. I was drawn to the natural approach to birth. I studied midwifery in Belgium. In Europe, and especially in Netherlands, midwifery is a very respected profession and very well known and common. When you are pregnant, you go to a midwife. That's your first route of entry. And then the midwife walk the whole journey with you through pregnancy, birth, and postnatally. That was obviously my understanding of midwifery. And I did a lot of my practicals in the Netherlands, and my first work experience was there. But then my heart was calling me back to South Africa, and I've been back in the country now for almost 17 years, and it's been a radical journey of discovery of the state of midwifery in South Africa, which was not what I thought it would have been. I had another big passion in my life, and that was surfing, and just been so drawn to the ocean. And actually the waves got me to Jeffreys Bay. I started really on grassroots levels in Jeffreys Bay, and realizing, hey, there's not much going on for midwifery the way I know it. And I would go to a doctor and say, hey, I would love to set up a private midwife practice. And they would look at me and it's like, good luck. So I knew, okay, this is not just going to happen. And I carried on surfing. Started to work in the local hospitals and a local clinic, did some volunteering, and really learned more about the South African context. And also understanding that midwifery is not a known profession here the way I know it. So it were really humble beginnings. And I joined up with a South African nursing sister and midwife, Laura Birch, who had a baby clinic. And then in 2009, we started the Healthy Mom and Baby Clinic. The Mom and Baby Clinic is an NPO that really gives beautiful, holistic, called private care to any woman, no matter her social, economical, cultural background. And we provide the full picture from antenatal care. For birth, we prepare them, they go to the local hospital, and then they come back for postnatal care and reproductive health. So we walk a long journey with our mummies. So in that journey of setting all of this up, I was still living on one of the best waves in the world, and I got into competitive surfing in the longboarding scene. 2013, I think, and 2014, qualified twice to make it to Worlds. But at that time I was running a full-fledged clinic, and I was busy doing my master's in midwifery. I studied advanced midwifery and neonatal nursing science. So I was so busy, and it didn't make sense that I would also be on such a high level competitive. And then my colleague at the time, she wrote a little paper, a newspaper article without me knowing, and saying, local surfing midwife off to China. And then I thought, oh, that's cool. Here's my two passions together, surfing midwife, and that's how people know me now, as the surfing midwife. So eventually I did get into setting up a private midwife practice as well. Next to the Mom and Baby Clinic, I also started to do home births, and because at the time we had doctors and we had a new gynecologist coming to town that has agreed to back me up. By then I think I've grown in credibility, and so they were happy to do this for me. But I definitely pioneered, because it was the first time ever done. I think it was the first time ever that there were home births in Jeffreys Bay. And then unfortunately, the obstetrician that I was working with, he moved to Port Elizabeth. He moved out of town, and then all the other doctors, the GPs that used to do births, has also stopped doing births because of litigation. The insurance fees went up sky high. It wasn't worth their while anymore. So that was the end of me being able to do home births in Jeffreys Bay. But I carried on doing births in Port Elizabeth because that was close to the doctors and to back up. So birth really is a team effort. And if a country structures it well to support the team, like I know from the Netherlands and from many other countries that benchmarked off the Netherlands, as a midwife, there's not even a question if you could refer or work with a doctor. That's just how it's set up. So midwife is the first line, the first entry. Well, here in South Africa, it's not necessarily in that structure, especially not for independent midwifery. You need to almost engage with a doctor, build trust relationship, and go have a contract with that doctor. It's like, hey, we agree to work together. So it's not standard, and many doctors don't want that. So if you don't have doctors that want to work with you, then you actually can't be a midwife. That is how radical it is. So I was very intrigued by this South African scenario, and I ended up doing research for my master's, and I looked at collaborative maternity care. So going into those doctors' offices and interviewing them was very revealing. And my conclusion was, what I was thinking is that it's not because I don't believe in this structure, but what the real issue is how litigation has come in, and private practice, where it is everyone on their own, trying to build your practice so you're not working in a team effort. So a midwife can actually become competition for you. The suing culture has hit South Africa big time. It has not benefited birth. And unfortunately, the mummies, because I also researched them, interviewed them, they think it's best for my baby, but it isn't. And the doctor knows that. One doctor said, if your theory works, what you're trying to research, that's fantastic. It's how it should be, but I wonder if we've gone too far. And we end up with really bad statistics. We've got a 77% cesarean section rate. So I don't even have to say that something is not right. That is unheard of anywhere in the world. The World Health Organization has a justifiable rate of 10 to 15% cesarean section. Looking at our developed countries, that's under 10%. And research is all over how natural birth, the way we are designed, really, go back to the basics, is best for mom and baby, and multiple reasons for that. So what it really is lacking is the absence of good independent midwives that own the whole midwifery space. In South Africa, it is part of nursing, so there's a confusion about what a midwife really is. Most people think she's a nurse or a sister, whereas we should really grow the midwifery profession, that they can become real independent practitioners. Doctors still look down on midwives. Not all of them. There's lots of them have been taught by midwives, and they understand the value and how they own a natural birth. And then the other big factor that's lacking is that collaboration on an equal level, working together as a team and not as competitors. Access to care, like in the more remote areas, there's no access to midwives or doctors, so women have to start traveling for their births, and that is something that needs to be reversed. We need to bring the midwifery, community midwife back, bring it back to the communities, get birth being in your community and part of your life. So in that journey, I did my PhD on strategies for scaling up midwifery in South Africa. I came across Sister Lillian, and she was a very strong advocate for natural birth, and she ran sensitive midwifery that I knew from my professional journey. And wow, she identified me as a successor, so she gave me her whole baby. So now I instantly was given this incredible platform that I could carry on her legacy. So I'm busy scaling up midwifery really tangibly right through the country, through different initiatives, symposiums, online courses, and mentorship. My path also crossed with a doctor, obstetrician, and he's an obstetrician leader and well-known doctor in his field. And we started talking, and we are now quite far in advancing this whole team effort. So with partnering with an obstetrician and some key people in the country, we are really building on a solution for birth. And it's starting to happen. We're creating momentum. So the midwives are understanding the vision. The doctors are getting on board. The solution is that we are going to facilitate teams. So we will give the structure on how to collaborate and help in that process. So it comes along with mentorship, with setting up team meetings, And then the other big part of that we want to offer is a technology element, where these days there's such beautiful technology available. We want to implement it where a woman can have access to an app, and that can link to the midwife and to the doctor, so the whole team can see her pathway. And then the point of entry is always a midwife. So if a woman is pregnant, she goes to the midwife. We screen and see if she's healthy or if she has complications. And then through the technology, you can easily determine the care pathway. If she is low risk and she can stay with the midwife, or if she's high risk, we need to get her to the doctor. And then in that team effort, you just place the woman on the right place, and everyone is going to benefit. And then what we also want to do is then have value-based care. So instead of everyone just paying for a fee for service and you feel like I'm paying everyone and what is actually happening, everyone on their own, in a team effort you will save so much money because we're all working together. So for medical aids it will be very attractive to pay for an outcome instead of just always for these fees. And we're going to bring the cesarean section and intervention rate down tremendously with less hospital bills to pay, less doctor bills to pay. So it will be a massive cost-saving effort, and everyone will be happy at the end of the day doing what they do best. So we're pioneering a solution for the country, and I believe for the world, because in many countries there are certain same problems. There's a realization that the over-medicalization has not served us, and it's important to go back to the basics. Yes, modern medicine has taught us a lot and we've saved a lot of lives, but now we can also see that with all our smartness and interventions, we also do a lot of harm. And there's a reinventing of how birth can look like in our worlds. And it works in a modern society, but also in a rural society. If you have this concept, empowering midwives, putting them together with a doctor. And there is a lot of international attention last year was the year of the nurse and the midwife. It was declared by WHO. And now we are in the decade of the midwifery. So it's on the agenda. We need to invest in midwives. Otherwise, we are not going to see healthy next generations. That's how radical it is. Like, if you do birth well, you will have a healthy generation. If you're going to mess up birth, we mess up with our future. And we need way more midwives. I mean, there's just a report that has been released, an international report, that we need about 900,000 midwives in the world. There's such a massive shortage. So I hope that I can motivate people to think of midwifery as a career, and that in many countries midwifery will be way more regulated, remunerated, and that there is a direct entry midwifery training available, that you can choose midwifery as a career. That is my dream.